Hey everybody, welcome to our very first Circle of Magic Readalong live show. Shay's not able to join us, she had to work unfortunately, and Andrew may hop in later, we'll see, but we have three lovely people joining us tonight. So if y'all want to introduce yourselves, if you don't already know them, you should. Their channels are all linked below and you should be following them, but go ahead and introduce yourselves and we're going to discuss Sandry's book. I'm so happy we're doing this. Kara.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Kara. My channel is Wild Book Garden. I have never read this series before. I've mentioned before that, like, weirdly, I just missed the Tamora Pierece train when I was, like, actually in that age group. But I've read a couple things as an adult that I have really enjoyed. And I am also very excited we're doing this. Like, I can't wait to discuss the book.
I knew, I was reading it and thinking, Kara's going to be so into this with like the thread magic. I knew it.
I was like, wait, she's a spinner? Like, yeah. I'm very excited.
I knew you were very excited about that. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Ashley.
My turn?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ashley from Bookish From. I actually did a read along with Bethany. We did this Song of the Lioness Quartet with each other a little while back. So this is not my first time reading Miss Pierce. Because when we did the first show, I was like, I've never read anything by her, but I've heard such amazing things about her. And then, of course, in the library, she's never on the shelf. Like, kids to this day still love her work. So I was happy and excited to be a part of this one as well.
Yay. And Bree.
The name's Bree. I read this whole book front to back. Really happy to talk about me reading the book in its entirety. My channel is called Live Petition, and I lied to you. I didn't finish the hour, but I'm here for the situation. I read Tamora Pierece, right? Tamora Pierece?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And y'all did the Alana the first, and I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this character. And I was just obsessed with how many things the author was able to include into a series that really focused on the pains and the successes of this particular age, specific to their developmental age and like what typically happens for them. I just felt like the author has a good way of breaking certain norms and challenging certain belief systems, and making children or, middle grade readers feel seen when they read her book, for the most part. I mean, there's some things, like all things, but for the most part, I think she did a pretty good job in that, in Alana in the first. Or Alana first, somebody first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the name.
Yay. I'm so glad everybody's doing this. So some of y'all, if you joined us for the Alana thing, know this, but I am a longtime fan of Tamora Pierece. I loved her stuff as a kid. I've reread some of my favorites many times over the years, and I haven't reread the Circle of Magic books in a long time, and I'm so excited. I forgot how much I loved them until we started rereading. Anyway, so this was really fun for me, and it reminded me why I like this series so much. But how did everybody do? If you didn't like it, don't tell. No, it's fine.
It was a 2-star for me. The fact that there was just representation of diversity at all was not for me. I like plain books. I like books to be as white as possible. And this book was giving inclusivity to a point, and it made it comfortable.
I feel like she was back in 1997 trying to be woke.
Y'all know how to grate my nerves already. Y'all know how to drive me crazy. I'm sitting here minding my business, right? Mine went somewhere else, and all I heard was woke.
No, I'm just kidding. It was a good book. I don't know what I would rate it because I haven't finished it, but
I loved it. This is my favorite Tamora Pierce I've read so far. Not that I have like a huge sample size, but I read the whole Wild Magic series, which I really enjoyed, and I read a couple of the Protector of the Small books, which I also liked, but I really, really loved this one. Yeah, I'm really impressed at how Tamora Pierce includes like different points of view and different like groups of people, and I really like that it's not like Daja, for example, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but it's like her people are really looked down on by other groups, but then it's not like they're like, she doesn't do like a noble savage thing, you know, where like they never do anything wrong. It's like she also views, she has some like prejudices against like some of the other like tradesmen, you know, and I thought that was interesting. I love these characters. Like, I loved the spinning and weaving magic. Bethany was correct. Yeah, I'm really impressed too at how she balanced all the different points of view. And this book also made me realize that I think in fantasy right now, in any age range, I feel like it's pretty unusual to have the first book in a series where you're not already setting up like the big conflict. Like, you're not really getting super into that, but I didn't mind. I was like having a great time just hanging out with these characters, and things do happen. Like, there is plot, but it's not like, it was refreshing to not have like, okay, well, here is clearly the villain that we are going to be fighting for 4 books. So
Yeah.
I had a great time.
will
I
say,
loved it.
not to spoil anything in the future, but it is setting up the big conflict. You just don't really know that yet.
Yeah, I thought it's like, it feels like we're getting into some ideas that are going to be important later, but it's not like
overt.
Here is the evil person they're going to fight like for the next 4 years. But
I gave it 4 stars. I haven't written a review yet, but in my head, I would give it 4 stars. This, compared to which I also don't have a huge sample size. My only sample size is the Song of Lioness Quartet, which I think I do favor a little bit more. I'm very much so action, blow 'em up, pow pow, who are we fighting? And this is very much so, I think, in this first book, heavy on the character development, which I didn't mind because I think it gives us as readers the opportunity to see how these 4 characters are going to interact with each other. I think the camaraderie that's kind of built during this theme of like, I don't fit in, nobody really likes me, and so they become very, I don't want to say dependent upon one another, but they find camaraderie within each other because they're all ice. I mean, come on now, everybody got packed up and said, you got to move because every one of you, you're a problem. And so I think as a kid, any kid that has ever felt isolated or left out or alone, I think would find solace in a book like this. They would connect with those characters, which, even though I am a very plot driven type of person, I appreciated what she did with that because it wasn't written for me. You get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like if I'm looking at it from the perspective of a kid reading this, they would love that. They would eat that element of it up. And so there was a lot of respect there. And I think it's gonna pay out in the long run, seeing how they vibe with each other when that big conflict does come.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it was really fun for me revisiting this and seeing the beginnings of it, having read, because there's this quartet and then a second quartet where they're a little older, and I would say this one is definitely more middle grade. But yeah, I love the characters. This one feels very cozy to me, which I think cozy fantasy is having a moment, and this definitely fits into that. It's got like found family, and you know what you were saying, Ashley, too, about the outsiders. That's probably part of why I loved this series so much, is because I felt that at that age. And so I think it's so, there's so much going on here. And I don't think it really gets into it in this book specifically as much, but like Rosethorn and Lark are a couple.
Oh.
Oh. Not me needing to go back and look at some passages again.
I know, like
for better context.
Let me just
Okay.
like point that out. But like, and Daja, we find out in the second quartet, ends up being queer as well. It's like she's so like, so it's yeah.
Betsy,
So like,
you're spoiling in 4K.
And sips tea.
I mean, it's not spoiling the conflict. It's just that like I like that it has some of that representation, and like there's a variety of things. It's dealing a little bit, not perfectly maybe, but like with fat phobia, with Tris, which I'm so glad people enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think Ashley, you were talking about. I think you used the word respect at one point when you're talking about like the writing in the books, and that's one of the things that I feel like I've seen in all of Tamora Pierce's books that I've read so far is she respects her readers. Like she doesn't, like she trusts kids, you know, and she writes for kids. And I feel, you know, lucky to also enjoy these. But as you were saying, Ashley, it's like they're not written for us, but we can still get a lot out of them. And I feel like she also respects her characters. Like all of these kids in this book, they feel very believable as children, but children who are also shaped by the things they've gone through that kids shouldn't have to go through. And like getting to see Sandry, like, because you didn't realize, I feel like at the very beginning, that she basically has PTSD from what happened to her, which makes a lot of sense, but it's not spelled out for you at the beginning. And it's only as you start seeing more of her and you start like seeing her be brave in other circumstances. Like I almost cried when they all made that little light for her. Like I thought that was so beautiful. So yeah, I feel like Tamora Pierce is a really respectful author in terms of like her characters and her readers, and I love that.
The mental health rep was really good for me to see. It's seeing this. I am a child therapist right now, so it was really good to see that played out. There was also something, because I don't remember characters' names, but there was two characters actually who would word stuff a particular way to kind of like feed that thread later on that I'm kind of like manipulating you, but not like negatively, but so you can be empowered by who you are. And that was where I left off on the book when they were upset and they were like, "You lied to me." It was like, if we didn't do this, and that, like you wouldn't have, you know, found your voice. You wouldn't have figured out that you have it within yourself to be awesome, essentially. So I really liked how that is, because I do similar things like that in my practice of just be like, I wonder, would this be okay if I did that? And they'll be like, no. And I'm like, look at you knowing boundaries. Come on. You know, like they're just like different things to empower kiddos.
Yeah. And I like that, like, we're already seeing this kind of friendship group forming, and obviously they're already like trusting each other more by the end of the book, but there's also a lot of friction, which feels real also. Like these are very different personalities. But then also it's like if somebody tries to fight one of them, they all just like circle up and they're like, hey, only I can bully her.
It feels very much so like sibling dynamics between the four of them. Like they're gonna bicker, they're gonna squabble, they're not gonna get along, they're gonna be aggravated with each other, but it's internal for them. And anybody on the outside is gonna have to, you know, you have to go through all of us if you want one of us, which that camaraderie piece for me was, I think, the strongest part, because after everything that each one of them had gone through, I felt like just having that support system, especially amongst your peers, is just, for kids, that's a huge thing. And I think sometimes as adults we can forget how meaningful that can be for a kid, even if they all weren't necessarily going through the same exact events, but they were all dealing with some form of trauma. And so just to be able to connect with someone who's feeling that isolation, that has gone through some. And I mean, I think I was shocked because I was like, damn, like, so these kids have gone through some stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and like you were saying, Carol, like, I did not realize how bad, like, because you get that introduction where it's like, okay, like her parents have died. And then was it like a caretaker nurse type of, she ends up getting killed. And I'm thinking like, damn, that's bad. But then when you see this fear of the dark, I was like, oh my gosh, I said, this baby's really just it, like, yeah, that kind of that kind of was sitting. I was processing a book and I was like, ooh, I was like, that's tough. It's really tough. But I'm glad that she had that support system and that they have each other.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how their relationships are going to continue to grow through this series and the next one.
Yeah. I was just gonna say I somebody else started talking, I think, too, but I love their relationships with each other, but I also love how many safe adults they have in their life.
And I was about to say
you know, like they all have people who can kind of mentor them and are there for them, and I just love seeing that, especially because with what they've gone through, they so need that. They need stability and they need safe adults around them. And so I think that's neat because you don't always get that in middle grade books, especially.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No, not at all. It was like, I don't know if it's because I'm child therapist and I'm trauma informed, but right away I said, oh, she's going to take us there. Apparently, this is going to be a lot of trauma in this book, is what I thought very much immediately. And I also think that them forcing them to be in a same spot also let them know that they don't have to hurt alone.
Yeah.
They don't have to. They can, there were some parts where they were like, we're going to have to figure out how to get along because we're all living here. So teaching social skills, empowering them that you can do something and something can be your own and it doesn't have to be taken from you. You can get positive reinforcement without having adult be belligerent towards you and make you feel that you are not capable. You don't have to fit in the box of, what a boy should do or what a girl should do. If it's weird, who cares? Still live your life, kind of thing. There were just so many levels of like skills, which what I teach a lot in my practice, teaching skills so that kids can feel very empowered in what they're doing. And it works just beautifully when there are adults around you who are also affirming in what you're doing and allowing you that space to be your authentic self and to be a child, because a lot of times trauma kind of stunts you and makes you operate in the world that you feel like you have to be independent and not depend on anyone, or that you have to be older than what your chronological age is. So I really appreciated all of those aspects of the book.
Yeah, I loved the adults as well, and how they seem to have such a good balance of like letting, like you were saying, Brie, letting the kids feel able to take things on themselves, but then also giving them guidance because they are children. And I like that, they weren't going to let them get away with things. I thought it was funny how they all thought discipline was like punishment. And they're like, I mean, it can be, but really it's about focus. But it's like they'll discipline them when they have to, but they're also very understanding about where they have come from and like why they are acting the way they are. Like that scene where Rosethorn is telling off Briar for being late again. And she's like scolding him. And in the middle of her scolding him, she says something like, I know that you're not used to having food and you're never going to starve again. Like you might miss a meal here or there, but you're never going to have to. And he just like hugs her and it's like, Briar.
So good.
Yes, it's like, and he is not like a physically demonstrative person. So like that moment is, I just feel like such a good example of like how good a job Tamora Pierece did, like writing all these characters and these like mentorships, and it's just like
it's the perfect of parental modeling, right? It's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna scold you, but I'm also gonna self redirect in that moment and realize that I'm gonna let you know that what you did was unacceptable. How
Mhm.
I want you to know that I see your wounds and this is
Mhm.
to take care of you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and I think you get a lot, like several of those. Like there's the thing where Briar gets in trouble for having a messy room because he's been sleeping on the floor because he's scared of sleeping on the bed. And they're like, this is not acceptable. We'll take out the bedstead. You can have the mattress on the floor if you want, but you're gonna sleep on the mattress and you're
Yeah.
gonna keep your room tidy. Like it's like kind of mixing a like or dealing with the bathing thing of like you're gonna
Mhm.
take a bath every day, you're
Yeah.
uncomfortable in the group baths, fine, we'll take you to the private ones, but you're gonna take a bath.
Yeah, like they make allowances, but they're also like, we are taking care of you,
Yeah.
which sometimes means you have to listen to us when you
Yeah.
don't want to.
Yeah.
The
I
interview
love Briar. Sorry, Brie.
bath was funny, but go ahead, Ash.
No, I was just saying I love Briar.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know what it was about that baby, but he was everything for me this entire book.
Yeah. Oh.
He's come
But
so far, even by the
girls,
end of this
Mhm.
one book. What's
Yeah.
that, Brie?
he was just like, huh, girls.
I know.
Yeah.
Which is like
Like,
a
I don't
very,
know.
very like 12-year-old boy thing to
Yes,
say.
yes.
Like he's like, I'm gonna get cooties. I'm here with a bunch of girls.
Like Triss is probably gonna just talk all the time. Wait, why isn't she talking to me?
And then he's the one who starts like asking her and bugging her about stuff. I loved it. Yeah.
I love it. It's so good.
Briar took me a little longer to warm up to, but I think it was for very understandable reasons. Like we've been saying, these kids have been through so much, and
Yeah.
it makes total sense why he would be the kind of character that he is. And I
Mhm.
love how even by the end of this one book, he's already feeling so much safer and so much at home. And there's like those things where it's like he realized that like he'd been telling himself, he's like, I know that I could just like steal stuff, but I'm not going to do it right now because I'm busy. And it's like by the end of the book, it's like he doesn't want to steal from them because he knows
Yeah.
that he's safe there. Like I didn't steal it because I
This
have
was also
better
funny, Renee.
taste.
I have better taste than to steal
This is
that.
why I loved him for those
Yeah.
moments where he just was like,
Yeah.
like the comedic break. It came from him a
Yeah.
lot for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like they were trying to get him to like stop digging the hole for himself, and he's like, no, I can't have people thinking I'm this dumb. Like I did not steal that. Like,
I love it. Like I got a reputation to protect, Cal.
right.
Oh man. Yeah, sorry. I know I haven't been doing a lot with the comments. I just kind of wanted to like get into the discussion, everybody watching, before we did that. But there were some really good ones. This I liked. It's sweet because Sandry was able to act as the glue for the group at many points, and then they were all able to be there for her at the end, which I think is true, and I loved that.
Yeah.
Let's see, this was good.
Really being like, I don't know how to conceptualize it. I just found reading it, what I read, is it really helped prepare them for adulthood.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you have like this thing of, right, when Sandry is learning about spinning and weaving and everything, she learns that the wool strands are really weak on their own, but when they're together, they're strong, and that it's like then becomes a metaphor for the four of them
Yeah.
that they're stronger together. And I
Yeah.
just,
I know people sometimes, like, I know one of the reasons people say they don't like middle grade is like stuff like that, that it's like too, I don't know, too on the nose or something. But like this book, I think, is a good example of how like when it's when it's like well supported in the story, I'm like, give me your heavy themes. I don't even care, because like it felt so earned by like all the character work and all of the story elements that came together at the end. Like that scene in the cave, it didn't feel like it was forced into the book just so we could have that moment of like, yes, the four of them are strong together.
yeah.
Like it worked so well for the story. So I mean, yeah, I think that's something sometimes people have a problem with in middle grade, and I'm like, I do not mind if you back it up, and she did.
Well, and I think it's true to life too. Like for those of us
Yeah.
who in some way have felt different, like I do think it's true that as you get older, you find your people. You find people
You
that,
do.
become that support system for
Mhm.
you, who understand where you're coming from to some extent.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Like I don't think that that's unrealistic.
It's really not. Yeah, and like there's so much that these kids have gone through that I'm like, really, it's unrealistic for them to have really affirming friendships. Like, no.
Those are just salty adults who are still trying to
Yeah.
find their
Honestly.
chosen group of people. I can't
Yeah.
stand when adults refute middle grade.
There's some where I'm like, I like huge advocate for adults reading kid lit, like middle grade and young adult and everything. But it's like at some point I'm like, you know what? Just stop reading it. That's fine. Like I don't want to hear your bad takes anymore.
Just understand that like it is not written for you. Like
Yeah.
it's not written for you at all.
Yeah.
For a lot of readers, I feel. But I feel like them being in the house is very healing for them. I feel like it addresses an issue that I found in every one of them and in different severities, which is abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
And also feeling betrayed by people who they felt like they
Yeah.
was supposed to support them and love them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. The
Yeah.
betrayal part.
And I think the fact that like another reason that all the metaphors just like really I think worked for this story is that none of the kids are like their one trauma, or like this one thing about them. Like they're fully developed characters. And so all of that symbolism about like spinning and like being braided together and like the way that works with the magic and everything, it doesn't feel like it's not oversimplifying the characters. So even though it is a very clear idea, it's still an idea that has a lot of depth, like she still like Tamora Pierce still explores it in really thoughtful ways. It's not just like, I don't know, it's not like she just like color coded the children and she's like, this one plant. Like
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's more to it than that. Well, and I think you see how part of it comes out of who they are and how they respond to things around them. So, I mean, like, that's why Triss's whole issue is managing her feelings and her temper, because that's when her magic kind of comes out, when it gets the better of her, even when she has good reasons to be upset.
Yeah.
One part that made me cry, not cry, sorry, almost cry. I don't really cry, but I'll get emotional. Is when he was like, let me show you how to regulate your emotions through breath work. I was like, oh my God, beautiful. God. My God. And then when they would mention it and do it on their own, come on, reinforcement. Come on, reinforcement. I loved it.
It's really good. And like, I mean, like you read this as a kid and it's like, oh yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think it's so good. And
Loved it. Because I do a candle blowout with 5-year-olds. Gets them to calm down. I'm like, look, you're losing it a little bit. Let's do some candles.
Yeah.
And I can do it faster. I'm like, look at you. Great breather. Great breather.
Breathing is really helpful. Like my youngest, we do a lot of breathing stuff. Like their teachers have given them exercises and we've done stuff at home. And like it is really helpful for kids with big feelings.
Yeah, because their frontal lobe is not developed. Their feelings just, I'm angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do it with my toddler.
Yeah.
Now I do it with her all the time. I'm like, do we need to take some time and breathe? She's like, Mommy, I'm frustrated. She did that. Sorry, it's tangent, but she did that in front of another adult. It kind of looked like, did your child just communicate that? Like, yeah, she's frustrated.
She's got language for her feelings,
right? For her feelings, and it's I just so we do a lot of breathing too, because I have had to as an adult, and I didn't have that as a kid, and it's to my detriment. I did not have that as a kid, and so I see the impact of being able to regulate your emotions and learning how to, you know, control them and how beneficial. Which one of y'all said like setting them up for adulthood?
Me.
But yeah,
Agree.
I think
Yeah.
like that's the perfect example of,
Yeah.
Even as an adult reading this book, I can definitely agree with that, Brie. Like it's setting them on that path to be successful adults,
Mhm.
even
Yeah.
after everything that they've been through. It's like this is not you. This is not all that you are.
Yeah.
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 Also, this book is a healthy example of trauma bonding. I know we
Mhm.
talk a lot about negative trauma bonding.
Positive.
This one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yes. It
Yes.
is.
I also really like how near the end of the book they start learning a little bit about the other like types of magic, or like they start
Mhm.
appreciating the other kids' like strengths, and like they all end up learning spinning because they all decide they want to, and it's going to help all of them. And I thought that was cool. Like that's another thing where it's like, yeah, they each have their kind of distinct specialty, but
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like that's like the only thing that they can do or something, or the only thing they can provide to the group.
is giving group
Yeah.
there.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, they have like
Wow.
their group meditation sessions.
Yes,
I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I also love, so like when
My
Triss
kids
goes
do
off by
meditation in
herself.
school. Like we didn't learn that in
Yeah.
school, but like my kid in their elementary school, they do it with the kids in classes and stuff. And
That's cool.
yeah.
I think the closest we got was like cool down after like dance class or something, which was like just laying on our backs and listening to music, and that was like really really soothing. I also really love in the book where like Triss has her moment where she's like, I'm gonna go off by myself and experiment with magic. And when they find her and she's like, I almost died, I should probably listen when they tell me stuff. It's like, because yeah, it makes sense that she would like want to go off by herself and, you know, have fun with magic and not tell the adults, because all these kids are kind of, well, I guess some more than others are used to not being able to rely on the adults in their life. But then also when those adults are like, hey, this is for your safety, now you know why you can't do it, she's like, okay, yeah, not gonna do that again.
Not gonna do that, yeah. Because with the scene where she was like, her eyes were closed and she didn't see, and I was like, girl, what are you doing?
But then at the same time, because they've listened and learned, like when they're in an emergency situation, they're able to safely use what they know to stay safe until a grown-up can come help. Like, so it's like a good balance of like teaching them to be independent to the degree that they're ready for. It's funny reading it as a parent because I don't think I've read these since. Well, no, that's not true. You know what? I read these. I had forgotten. I read these last. Well, it's been like 10 years. So my almost 9-year, well, not 10 years, but like my almost 9-year-old was like under, like not yet a year old the last time I read these. I was like recovering from a broken leg and I read them as like a comfort thing. But so I haven't read it as like an actual parent of like grown children or growing children. And so it's interesting. Like I feel like I'm taking different things out of it than I did have before.
Well, and on the adult side, I really like that Nico, I think, is the one who does it. He's like, I'm telling you this because you might need to know it in an emergency. And it's like, yes, that is something that like in middle grade or like in real life, it's like adults should be aware. It's like, this is not something you should mess around with lightly, but in the event of an emergency, you need to know this. It's like, so like you were saying, Bethany, that's like at the end of the book, that's why they're able to kind of keep themselves alive until the adults can find them, because like they had at least enough information that they could kind of figure it out together, rather than the adults just being like, we're not teaching you that.
Right.
Yeah, safety planning is really important with adolescents. Also, it's like, I felt like up to what I read, I felt like the adults who were safe was not as reactionary as a lot of adults that I work with. Like they were just kind of understanding this is kind of where you're at developmentally. This makes sense. And what's going on with you. Because I find a lot of times, even with parents I work with, they're like, they ran off. Why would they do that? Da, da, da. I'm like, well, developmentally, they are trying to get independence. They're trying to figure things. they're becoming, young adults. They're trying to figure things out. Well, I'm going to punish them. I'm like, you're going to punish them for individuality? So I constantly have to remind parents of the developmental age of their
Yeah.
child. I constantly have to normalize being a child to parents.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's like a fear thing because I have moments where I initially will react like that because I'm afraid. Like they've done something that has scared me, and and then I have to take a minute, just take a step back and be like, okay, let's try responding differently to this. But but you have different contexts as an adult, and so I think that you like see bigger consequences that can be scary.
Yeah. Something is like, I would say for me, like even with my daughter, like she loves to run, but not understanding like there's a time and a place in which you should be running. Like you cannot go and run in the middle of a parking lot. And so I have, like you, Bethany, like I've had like reacted because just out of fear and panic, like, oh my gosh, like you're running away. And then I have to pull back and be like, okay, you don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know.
know.
Like you're not, connecting the dots yet. We're like, oh, parking lot, cars. Car may not see me because, I'm 3.
Invincible.
So like, and they do. I think there is this level of like feeling invincible and not realizing like you're not as invincible. And part of me gets so heartbroken that we lose that essence of feeling like I can take over the world. And I feel like the world kind of corrupts us into believing that we're no longer invincible, or experiences teach us that we're no longer, I don't know. But this comment, I don't know if you can highlight it, Bethany. They spoke to them with honesty and respect. That's one thing as a parent that I appreciated about reading this book. I think that one of the things that I've had to learn in being a parent is that my child is a human. And not saying that I don't look at her as a human, but like, I think it's easy to fall into a pattern, especially if you've experienced this. I'm just talking about my own experience. If you've experienced a parent that is just constantly bark, 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 yell, 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 and there's not that respect there. It's, do what I say because I'm saying it, instead of I need you to do this because X, Y, and Z. I have respect for you as a person, and I want you to respect me. This kind of mutual exchange of being honest with one another and having respect with each other. Like, that was very important for me in reading this because I didn't have that as a kid. And I know how it has impacted me as an adult and how I viewed myself in relationships that I've had with others. And so one of the things that I focus on with my daughter is I talk to my kid the same way I talk to y'all. Like, there is no like, no baby talk, no nothing, like honest conversations. I respect you as a human being in this household. Like, people laugh at me, but I feel like sometimes my child is more like my roommate than my child living in. Like, we have rules here, okay? If you're gonna dirty a dish, I need you to get up and put your dish in the sink. And she'll come in the living room and she'll tell me like, you need to pick your stuff off the floor. This looks messy. So it's just this kind of, I think it just builds a better relationship between adults and kids when they know that there's mutual respect there. And that's why I feel like the kids felt like they could trust the adults that were there because there was respect. And it was like, I do need you to listen to me, but I respect how you feel and I respect your opinion and your perspective and your views.
Yeah. And I like that they were just willing to compromise and to work with them. Like, I think Bethany, you were saying earlier how like Briar's like, oh no, you get sick if you bathe too much. And they're like, well, you're going to have to bathe. Like, if you're uncomfortable doing it in front of everyone, then we will we understand and we'll make allowances, but you are not getting out of bathing.
I love those accommodations. That was pretty good.
Yeah. It was funny though. And he was like, "I'll just like get my hair wet," and then Nico's like, "Hey, Briar."
Like they knew, like these adults have like taken care of so many kids. They know.
Like, we've been here, done this. This is not
Briar has met his match. Like
reason number 575. Why I love Briar, because Briar said he was gonna work the system. He was gonna work the system. Everybody's like, no, baby, it's not gonna work that way. We're here to make you feel safe, but you're not gonna work this system.
Yeah, that's so funny. So I'm gonna say this. Daja being rejected by her people was brutal, and her guilt over learning about metal work was sad. Yeah, I do think that's interesting that this is one of the major conflicts, right? That she's been taught that she shouldn't do crafting type work.
Mm-hmm.
But she's in a difficult situation.
Yeah, and like her and Sandry kind of have a similar, it's like a class thing. Is like, oh no, we benefit from selling these things or from other people selling these things, but like we don't work with our hands. You know, that's not that's not considered appropriate for their station. Yeah, I know that part with Daja was so sad. It's like imagining going through something like she did and losing your family, losing everybody. And then on top of that, they're like, well, you're unlucky. So you are basically dead to your whole community and you can't ever interact. Like, I just, yeah. And when Daja's talking about it, or no, maybe she was talking about the metalworking thing with, is his name Firestone? No, Ice Stone? Something.
Frostbeard or something?
Something like that. Yeah. Another great adult. When she's saying like that it was so hard on her for being taught that this was wrong. Like she says, like, I could have gone my whole life not knowing that loving these things is okay. And then he responds with like, don't be too hard on your people. Like these beliefs have kept them like a community. And I thought that was really interesting and nuanced as well. It's like, I think I'm a little more on the side of Daja because I'm like, look at what they did to this like little girl, you know, like, but it's like,
thank you.
Frostpine, thank you. I was like, it was something weirdly like cold weather. Yeah.
In that moment, in that scene you're talking about, Kara, I was thinking like, sometimes I get frustrated with even my community on things that happened to me as a child. And I think, you know, Bree, historical trauma exists. These parents had to do what they had to do to survive. They had to do what they felt that would keep me safe because I am a dark-skinned Black woman in America. So yeah, I can be frustrated about those things, but I can also understand that, like y'all were talking earlier, they were scared. They were scared that I was not going to survive. So sometimes having that in mind helps me not only give myself grace as an adult as I interact with children, but also give my parents grace for the things that I just thought was maliciously done with malicious intent as a child.
Yeah. I also think it does give it, you know, because too, it's kind of hard to be like, you know, not only are you losing everything, but then your community is saying basically, screw you. Like, we just don't want you. And I think what I liked about that statement is that it's almost that idea of forgiveness and letting go for yourself. Because the more you carry that pain and you hold on to it, it impacts you mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so you can't, and that's easier said than done, because I feel like even as an adult, there's stuff that I have not let go of, and it's not healthy to hold on to it. So I appreciate it. Even in that moment, I was like, yo, like what? But then thinking about it more, it's like, yeah, because as you get older, you've got to let that go. You can't keep reliving and holding on to that traumatic moment, because if you do, it's just going to impact you more as you get older. So, I mean, this was like a therapy session for me.
Yeah, it really is. Like we're all like, this was just addressing. So
it was. Well, I think for her too, it's like she can't let that define who she is and who she's going to become. That like she doesn't have to carry anger for her community. She can understand why they have done what they've done, you know, and have grace for that, but at the same time live her life the way that she needs to live her life that's going to be best for her. Which like you know, for other things I think I really relate to, of that process of like letting go of things that were hurtful, where you just have to understand where the other person was coming from when they had good intentions regardless of the outcome, and then you still have to just do what you need to do for yourself, you know.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, live your life unapologetically. Don't hold on to that. And I'm like, well, I know this book wasn't written for me, but on a side note, was this and so, like, I kind of listened to some of this. I was like, see, she has to let some of this stuff go. Let your burdens go. You have to let it go.
I mean, like, I'll be honest too, like, it kind of hits me differently, her story now, deconstructing from like evangelical Christianity. Like it's interesting that she walks this line of like still respecting and holding on to some of the beliefs she grew up with, while also letting other things go. And like I would love to find that place of balance, you know, to like be able to like hold on to what's still serving me or may serve me, you know. What?
I said, come on, therapy. You know, like you, Ashley. I was, as soon as she was, one of the characters was scared of the dark, I said, not this motherfucking book coming for me. Not this mofo book coming for me. Don't want to curse. I am.
But the solution wasn't to just force her to get over it. It was to help her have like tools to cope.
Coping mechanisms. Yes. Therapy. This is nothing but therapy.
The more we
therapy.
The more we talk about this book, the more I'm like, is Tamora Pierece a psychology major? Like,
I thought the same. I said, okay, therapy. I was like, I was thinking it was just so many therapeutic interventions that I've used.
Oh, well, she actually, so she did, like she talked about in the information about the Alana books, but she wrote quite a while before these. That when she initially wrote those, she was working in like a girls group home, like with teen girls. So she actually did work, and she was a social worker.
It shows in the best way. Like,
it shows.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But she always does stuff I think about in terms of, because what year was this written, Bethany?
97. It came out.
She
97.
does stuff far beyond her time. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were talking about the Alana books, it was
she was a psych major and was a house mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even when we were talking about the Alana books, certain elements of that was like, you know, thinking about just the progression of children's lit in general. She's doing a lot that you wouldn't see necessarily in the 90s. Not saying that there wasn't any great children's lit coming out of the 90s, but I think some of her themes and what she includes overall in her books are definitely more in the future than what you would anticipate from a middle grade book in the late 90s. Like I wouldn't assume, like, just the like I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, you know, Alana was written as long ago as it was written, reading it in the 21st century. And same thing with this.
Yeah.
It is very interesting.
Yeah. If there were, you know, like you were saying, Ashley, it's like obviously there were authors doing that kind of thing, but it feels like maybe they weren't part of bigger conversations in the same way. Like that wasn't something that like your average reader or book reviewer was talking about as much as today, which is like not to take away from the people who were already having those conversations. But yeah, it's just, I mean, this and the Graceling series, I'm like, Man, people have to stop like saying things about like old fantasy.
The Graceling series is also so good, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, because I just read them for the first time, and they also are just ahead of their time.
Yeah,
for YA,
or like the
and the
Seven
way
Realms books by Cinda Williams Chima. Like, I think similar.
It's
time.
like, okay, so it's possible for you to get, and I think the thing too is about books like this, right? Is it's and those, I guess, is that not only is it really thoughtfully putting all of these themes together and in this case, like coping stuff together, but it's also delivering an entertaining fantasy story, right? With great character work. So it's like the whole package that makes it, something that people want to read, and they're getting good stuff with it, and it's going to continue. And that's why people will continue to read these,
Yeah. It's like we were just talking about, Bethany. It's like people act like it's eat your vegetables, like it's good for you to read these things. And it's like reading good stories.
These are zucchini bread.
That should be the tagline for the read along, is like the zucchini bread of fantasy. You're welcome. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. Let's see. In the back, it says she studied social work and psychology, so we know all the things we're discussing about therapy and trauma are completely intentional. Yeah, I mean, I think you can see it when you talk about it. Yes, Graceling was very ahead of its time as well. And 20 years later, we decided to respect to a kid's self-image is somehow what communism. Yeah, I mean.
Yep.
I plan to read Graceling one day.
You should. I was so pleasantly surprised by how it handles us. Like, it was ahead of its time. Like, it was doing stuff that we do now after Me Too. Like the way it talks about consent and women's sexuality and like rape culture, and like it's great.
Yeah,
it's
really good. Like I read or reread series like that, and I'm like, modern authors have no excuse. Like, I have read books published like last year or this year that like did not handle those topics as well, and I'm like, you guys, like, we've been like, we have known some things for a while now.
Yeah.
So some folks be hanging out.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I agree with this too. Is that I've always felt the same thing about Tamora being ahead of the times with regards to young women's sexuality. I think that's really true as well. Like, she's very sex positive in the Alana books, and not like in this first quartet, they're really young, so that's less of a thing. But in the second quartet, they're a little bit older, and so some of that comes up. And yeah, she's pretty inclusive, and she's continued to learn and grow. I have a lot of respect for authors like that like she has, like apologized for things that she got wrong that she's since learned about. And I think that to me is huge,
Yeah. It's like she started out good, but she's even been like improving, and which is what we can all hope to do. Like, yeah.
Seriously. Hey. Glad it's a hit. Yeah, I like on a reread, I gave this 5 stars. I think when I had listed it as 4. I just love it so much. I feel like the whole series is probably going to be like that. It makes me happy to read it, and then discussing it, I'm like, wow, yeah, it really has so much that it's doing. Like,
I don't think I mentioned my star rating at the beginning. I also gave it 5 stars. Like, I was enjoying it throughout, but what really pulled everything together, and I was like, oh no, this is 5 stars, was like the way the ending was done, and like all of those like character relationships, and how like the magic also starts coming together. Like, I loved it. I thought this was great. I'm so excited to be reading this.
Yay. It makes me want to like do the second quartet at some point too.
Maybe. Yes.
We could. I have them.
I'm be down to do it.
I mean, we could just keep going.
Yeah,
we could, and I have no problems with that.
No, and they're not long books when I remember.
No, they're.
I'm done.
I forgot. Listen, I was another.
Bree, I mean, after you were like, hey, I would really love to do this.
That's why I was like, girl, you got to read as much as you can. You talk too much shit. I mean, stuff.
Oh man. Yeah, no, they're pretty quick to get through, which I think makes it doable. I mean, I'd be up for it if people want to keep going. I think it would be fun. Let us know in the comments if y'all I've had people asking about it.
Did somebody already read The Changelings? Did y'all already do a read along to that?
Of Graceling?
Graceling?
Oh, I was like,
Changeling, side chain. I was like, but I think if I know Bree, she's talking about Graceling. Yeah, I think
I actually could translate it.
I was thinking in my head, yes, they did. And I was like, I know she means Graceling, but we just gonna keep rocking and rolling with it.
It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, no, last year we did one with Mel from a book thing called Mel, which was fun. But yeah, they're really good. I do think you'd like them.
I'm gonna have to do a read along of my own because
do it.
Yes.
I still think about Alana. That was beautifully done. Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah.
I felt like inner Bree was living, like baby Bree, you know, with her buck tooth. She was into it.
Mm-hmm. Listen, there's a reason that first book is one of my all-time favorites. I've loved it since I was a kid, and I don't know, it's so good. Let's see. Okay, we saw that. Oh yeah, thanks, Steph. You know, we really weren't living in caves or changing our kitchens in the 90s or the 80s. Maybe some of them. Yeah. Yes, the birth charms are cool in her books. I like that she has like magical birth control and stuff. Want to recommend this book to my great nephew. How do I get past the magic element? Oh, to convince his super conservative mother to let him read it. That
I'm like, let's go to the park. We're gonna listen to a book on the way to the park for about 6 and
I mean, okay, listen, Vicky, maybe you could ease her into the magic thing. You could start with the Chronicles of Narnia, which have some of their issues, but like they are magic and Christian. And then if she's cool with that, then you could sneak in some Circle of Magic. That's one approach. I don't know if she really has that much of an issue with magic, but that might be something. I was so excited. Yeah. Oh, I love this.
I forced my way into it.
I'm glad you did, because I didn't know that you wanted to. So I was like, yeah, of course you can come join.
I think I basically invited myself onto this read along as well, so it's good.
So. I'm totally happy to have people invite themselves.
Was I the only one on right now?
Ashley waited politely for an invitation. Yeah.
Well, I think you know what? Actually, I think you were the only person that I like specifically reached out to. I think everyone else, I just was like, "Hey, I'm doing this. Does anyone want to do it?" No, well, because you did the other one with me, and you had said that you wanted to, so I was like, "Ashley, I'm doing this. Do you want to?"
You know, Ashley told me. I said, "Has Bethany lost her mind?"
She did.
Clearly.
She said, "How dare she not send me?"
How dare she not send the link?
So when Bree popped up, I said, "Oh, Bree really did." Bree really did.
Oh yeah, she messaged me, and I was like, "Yeah, of course."
I forget what we were doing, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what we were doing, Bree," but I was like, "Yeah, I'm doing this read along with Bethany." And I told her what it was, and Bree was like, "Hold up, get an invitation." After I did the song of the Lioness.
I was like, she knows I was excited about that. I read right along. I was at every live. I was
you were at every live show. You know what? I am not good at remembering things, so it's like Ashley I saw on camera, so I was like, okay, I know she said she wanted to do it. Oh man, no, yeah, because I had just put up a thing on Instagram to friends being like, hey, if you want to do this thing, let me know. And I mean,
I must have missed it. It
happens. I mean, but yeah, no, I'm usually pretty chill if people reach out and are like, hey, I want to do this thing. I'm usually like, yeah, sure. Like, join.
I wish more people do that for my Black Classic Book Club so I can be more accountable and have a date because I read the book and I'm just every week go by, some other shit happens and
well, what are
book
you
y'all doing
reading?
now?
huh?
What book are y'all supposed to be doing now?
This one I just got like that traveling and just random shit coming up with work. It's very tiny. See how
Oh
tiny
yeah.
it is?
Mm-hmm.
It's $3 on Amazon if you rent it. Just saying. Just putting that out there. It's a real good book, folks.
Love it.
But yeah, I can't do I saw someone said I should do a vlog of the changing?
The
Graceland,
Graceling.
baby. Graceland.
I'm
Graceland, baby. Graceland.
We gonna change, ain't we? I haven't been able to edit any of like the 8 videos I have footage for. And it's so bad because I don't know which footage goes to what. I was just filming, going back, adding the clips.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
rough.
know what's happening. So
Yeah.
I should say forget all those things.
Well, if you can go through it, I don't know. I've got a couple of videos in progress right now.
That's cute. It's
Like
about these
keeping it organized.
backlogs.
Yeah.
Huh?
I film on demand.
And
I'll be like, I have these videos that I haven't edited and put up yet. And I'm like, shoot, 24 hours before the shit get put up.
Well, it's because I do longer projects.
Yeah.
So like I'll be
True.
like filming
True.
for like weeks at a time, and then I have to
Yes.
I have a big one going on right now.
Yeah. I think my
Hey,
problem too is that
that's
like I like to
exciting.
mix things up so much. So if I have like a specific theme, then I'm like, I'm gonna like I don't want to read like 4 of these in a row, which is fine, except that I'm like, that was 6 months ago. What am I doing?
You are speaking to me.
Exactly. I was 10 minutes. I said, who's gonna be like, yeah, this is a vlog? 10 minutes?
Oh, yes, a vlog is a vlog.
A vlog is
okay?
a vlog. Listen,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, honestly, occasionally my like patron vlogs end up being like 10 or 15 minutes. Because if it's just like one book and I'm not doing that many exciting things while I'm reading it, like sometimes it is what it is, you know?
I don't know. The one that I'm doing right now may never see the light of day. And I literally, the first clip I filmed, I was like, this may never even go up. So if you're watching it, like, it's amazing that this happened because it will not drop until the end of the year. If I do it.
Wow.
If
Okay.
I do it.
Okay.
If I do it. I ain't building nobody's expectations. Don't be looking in December for shit. Because if it don't happen, baby, it's not happening.
Listen, I like that I have not tried to do. Like I have not tried to do something more than like I think my biggest project was like 3 months, and that was a lot.
It could be shorter, but I know me. And so giving myself the rest of the year is what it could be done in a short amount of time, but I just know me.
What you're doing.
But we're not going to talk about anything. And no, you're not talking to me about this after the live show either. Don't text me, don't call me, don't DM me, because I ain't finna tell you nothing.
First off, you gonna respond to me.
Huh?
You gonna respond to me.
Not about that, I will not.
Gonna respond to me. Y'all trying to divorce me on the internet? Y'all
we a mixed company. Stop showing out.
Y'all she tried to divorce me on the internet. I told her I ain't going nowhere.
Are we seeing like a breakdown of real?
I know, live on camera.
Like this is what I'm talking about. See, this is why you can't. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Airing everything out, business all live on the internet.
And the thing is, I don't really know. I'm just talking shit because I honestly don't know. I just think something, but I don't think that's what you're doing, honestly.
Okay.
No, but I do need to ask you something when we get off this.
I have told people I'm doing like I'm doing a Star Wars thing right now, which is
yes,
fun.
you are. I saw with all the books that were in your TBR. How's that going?
Great.
Great. Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah. Okay. I have like 1 book left. So.
Okay. You did good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did good.
No, it's been fun.
For another group project with us, because that seemed to be the only reason I put out a video. And
well, Kara finna kill me because we supposed to be doing the project. I didn't drop the ball. I swear I haven't dropped the ball.
Wait, what happened?
We've been DMing each other about a project. It's supposed to do it in the summer, right? That's when the video's supposed to go out.
The last I saw, it was like around July is when they were
Oh,
thinking.
okay, so I have time.
I was just thinking, I'm like, I need to start getting things together.
Yeah. I have time.
Oh, this was in the group chat.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have to start looking at some of that. I've been waiting for some things to drop to figure out what I'm doing. So yeah.
For people,
I love how we're talking very vaguely.
Sorry, y'all.
Like, what's happening?
I know. This is our little teaser section at the end of the live show.
Oh,
it's like
sorry,
bonus content.
Like, stay tuned. There's always something coming.
One project in May I'm excited about, and that's probably going to be the only video that go out in May at this point, because I'm having a hard time putting out video, which is I'm going to do part 2 to reading books by people who was born on the same day as me. Because
I love that video.
That's cool.
There's so many people born. I can do it for like 4 years. And then
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. It would be interesting to look into that. When were you born?
May 26th, the same day that Little Mermaid's coming out, y'all.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Bree.
We need to talk.
Okay.
But off screen.
Okay.
I'm trying to convince my kids to go with me. I was like, I'm going to make you watch the animated Little Mermaid.
They don't want to go?
Listen, my kids just want to watch Minecraft videos.
Minecraft for sure.
I don't know. We watched it was funny though, because I made them watch the animated Little Mermaid. And at first they were like, Mom, this is so lame. And then like we got halfway through and they got into it. And then at the end they were like, well, I guess it wasn't so lame after all.
Is your almost 9-year-old in Poppy Playtime?
In what?
Is your almost 9-year-old into Poppy Playtime?
Poppy Playtime. I don't even know what that is now.
Yeah, that shit is creepy, and kids around his age love it. It's like a horror game, and there's like a spaghetti person with tentacles and they got sharp teeth and shit. And my godson, he's like, God, mom, you gotta listen. It's so cool. I'm like, Jackson, it's not cool. It's creepy. It's creepy. He's like, well, I got 4 of them and I need the other 4 and I just have them all. I'm like, Jackson. He's like, God, mom. I'm like, Jackson. So then his birthday was last Friday, and guess who bought him the other 4? The goddamn Poppy Playtime. Me.
Oh my gosh, Bree. This would give me nightmares.
It's scary. It's scary.
Okay, I gotta look this up now.
Poppy Playtime.
Okay, wait. I'm curious now.
I'm like, now I want to see. Oh, I have seen these. They're super creepy.
He calls me every day about goddamn.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I'm saying. That's creepy.
I'd
be like, really creepy. No, you know what? My kid is familiar because you know what? We walked past a street vendor selling one of those, and he was like, "Oh, Mom, look, it's like," and I was like,
"Poppy,
no, sir."
And I bought him all. Now he has the collection. He don't know I'm buying him another thing that's part of it.
Okay, meanwhile, my kid is right now obsessed with the Wings of Fire books.
Be still my heart. Yes, and yes. I am here for it.
Yeah, but like I read out loud because he is reading. Well, I got him the next 3 for his birthday. He's read 1 and 2, and he's getting the next 3. But after 2, he was like, Mom, read book 1 for our bedtime read. So we read that. And now we're reading book 2 for our bedtime read. He's like obsessed. But book 1, I was like, oh my God, this is so violent. Like, it's violent. Really violent.
All the time. Every time like we talk about like Wings of Fire at work, all the parents are like, I get why the kids love it, but it is shockingly
yeah,
it is. It's like, really. I was like, dang.
It is, but the kids
I only read the
it.
first one, and I was like, oh.
I know. I was like,
Oh,
whoa.
I know. No, but he's obsessed. He like loves them, and he keeps wanting to talk about like and such. So that's like, yeah, he loves
Yeah.
them.
I
Does
love
he
that
know that there's
he's figured out how like to like force you to engage with him by like making it a bedtime read.
making a bedtime read?
That's some smart critical thinking. I like
Well,
it.
we've started reading middle grade books at night. Like I'll read them
Yeah.
aloud, and I do all the voices and everything.
Yeah.
Oh,
So has he discovered the graphic novels yet?
Yeah, so this is what we've done, because he didn't have the other one. So now he's reading book 1 as the graphic novel too. So like we read book 1 and book 2, and he's waiting on the like 3, 4, and 5 for his birthday. So now he's reading the graphic novel. Like I'm just like,
He's-
okay.
Do you know my heart is very right now? Like, I love Wings of Fire. I love to see kids excited about Wings of Fire because it's very interesting storytelling. And I don't know. And then the graphic kids love the graphic novels. And now there's
now I feel like I need to.
It is really interesting to me though, hearing his take on some of the characters,
yeah.
because like we're reading book 2 right now, and he's like, oh, Queen Coral is like really nice, and I'm reading this and I'm like, is she?
I don't trust any.
I'm like, I feel like she's putting on I don't know. It's interesting that his interpretation is that she's really nice, and I'm like,
yeah.
You're like, this is suspicious.
I don't trust any of the adult dragons.
no,
I just don't. Also,
no.
just how they operate. Huh?
It's 12 books.
It's more than 12.
There's
It's more than that. There's a
There's
lot.
There's like warriors. Like
they've had like
and I started reading
people
warriors.
come on now and like read and okay.
Listen, but I was like, why do people love these talking cats? That shit is fire. Okay.
Okay.
I think that like the whole idea of these cats, like, because you have like, it starts from the perspective of a domesticated cat. And he ends up, that's why the first book is Into the Wild, because he figures out that there are actual cats that are wild, that are in these different clans that are warring with each other, and they all have different like abilities and descriptors. And I always feel like kids who
It's kind of like that owl movie where it's like the
Guardians of
Guardians of
Gabul.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
I read those.
I just feel like the Warrior series is kind of out of pocket at this point, because you have like the Warriors, which is like all the cats, and there's so many of those series, and then you have like the Brave Lands, and then you have the dog ones, and it's a lot.
That's a lot.
But me as a librarian, every time I get to put one of them in my cart to order, I'm like, yes.
I think
the
reason I never got into those as a kid is like it was hard not to think of them as like these are stray animals that need to be taken care of. Which I know is like
that's interesting.
Not the point, but like like so when we would like have cats and stuff, it's like the first one starts out with like a cat getting lost in the wild, which is like not a good thing in the real world. So I think that was why as a kid I never like I think I read a couple, but I never got like super into them.
Yeah.
Another one that is actually violent.
So
yes.
As well.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting to me is because before this, I read to my kids Cameron Battle in the Hidden Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Which was great, but like I asked my almost 9-year-old what he thought. He was like, yeah, it was good, but it was like a little too violent. And now after reading Wings of Fire, I'm like, really? You thought that was too violent? But he's like, yeah, but they're dragons. They're supposed to be like that. And I'm like,
that's just logic.
Yeah, I think it's the animal factor for a lot of kids. Just kind of like it makes sense.
Yeah. The thing that felt weird to me, and I only read the first Wings of Fire book, so maybe this like gets smoothed out later. But the thing that I found like kind of distracting was like not just that it was way more violent than I thought, but it felt kind of jarring because like there'd be a lot of like the fun like whimsical hijinks, and then it's like somebody just ate a dragon corpse, and I'm like, they did what? Like
no. I don't know if that really.
No, it's pretty much so far it's kind of like that.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think I go ahead and check it out.
Okay.
They're quick reads as
They're
well,
very
and
quick, yeah.
they have graphic novel adaptations, and but
Mhm.
as I said before, I feel like everything, well, not here, but I was recently talking about this last week. All of the middle grade books are now getting adapted into graphic novels, and I'm not sure how I feel about that because I don't know, because you have Babysitter Club is graphic novels,
Yeah,
Cupcake Diaries, graphic novels, Spy School graphic novels, Wings of Fire graphic novels, and they
yeah,
even going back now and doing YA stuff as graphic novels. So it's just,
Mhm.
they know that that's the market to be in right now,
yeah.
which is
And
cool, but
I feel like you need a balance of the two, you
yeah,
know? I
yeah.
don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
The
I'm like,
one that, go
oh,
ahead, Brie.
I was seeing Ember of the Ice Dragons. This is the thing. I've been, I play Magic the Gathering, and I'm in the process of building a Commander Dragon deck, and I just like the idea of Wings of Fire.
Mhm.
Dragon. I like reading about dragons.
They're interesting. They're
Mhm.
very interesting. That series is interesting.
Yeah.
But what was here, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it yet. Hunted, the Deadlands, the dinosaur one. It's
No.
being the tagline for that is Wings of Fire meets Jurassic Park. And I've read it, and I think that people who read Wings of Fire that like dinosaurs will enjoy it because it's essentially the same thing. Just talking
Mhm.
Mhm.
dinosaurs and different clans that are warring with each other.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's as well written as Wings of Fire,
Mm.
Hmm.
but just a comp.
It
Just a good
struck
comp.
me, Ashley, there was a book I was meaning to mention to you. It
Mhm.
may already be on your radar, but just I always like think of you when I read things that I feel like fit kids in those like in between categories
Mhm.
or like reluctant. But Miles Morales Suspended, the new Jason
Yeah, Jason
Reynolds.
Reynolds, of course, you know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
know.
know. But
You know.
it's really interesting because it would be good for reluctant readers and like those
Mhm.
in between middle grade YA because it'll have like a few paragraphs in prose and then
Mhm.
verse and then
Yeah,
so it's like
Mm.
it's really quick to read, but it's a good story and it's
yeah,
like
I love
engaging.
Jason Reynolds.
I do too.
So,
Oh my goodness gracious.
Also, this just reminded me I had a picture book I was going to recommend to Ashley. So while we're doing this, like,
While we're here,
yeah, and actually anybody who's like looking to get into picture books as an adult, it's That Flag by Tamika Fryer
I
Brown.
read that this week.
Yeah. Oh my God, isn't it so good? And
I
Nicholas
literally,
Smith is the
yeah,
illustrator who did
who
Born on the
did,
Water,
yes,
which I
it's
heard about
19
from you, Ashley. Like
Yes, yeah, yeah,
it's so good. I
yeah.
was almost gonna use the like Goodreads recommends feature, but I'm like, I don't know if you checked notifications on that, but
No, it
it's
was,
so good.
I sat there, I was processing a cart and I came across, well, I mean, I ordered the book, but half the time you got to think about how much stuff I'm ordering at a time. So I don't see what I order either. So a lot of times I'll order something and then it'll spark and I'll be like, oh yeah, I did get that. So I literally sat there at the desk and I was reading it. And my colleague had walked past and I was like, you need to read this one because it was just, I think the storytelling and then the artwork
mm,
was
Yes.
just phenomenal. And for y'all who are watching, it's about two girls who are friends, a black girl and a white girl. And the white family flies a Confederate flag in the yard. And so her family, the black girl, her family tells her, like, you are not to go over there. I don't want you too close to that house. And so she knows it's because of that flag, but she doesn't understand why. And so
mm,
they go to this museum and they come across the history behind the flag. And that's when she puts two and two together. And then she begins to question her friend and say, like, why would you have that flag at your house? And so, and, her friend's basically like, oh, no, like it's Southern pride.
Yes.
It's that
mm,
has nothing to do with racism whatsoever. And
Mhm.
I'm glad that there was a teacher in that picture book that corrected her and was like, no, but actually it is.
Yeah.
And gave the history behind it. And then you have the little girl saying, like, well, why would my parents fly a flag
Yeah.
like that? And the teacher is like, I don't know, but that's a good question to ask. And so everything kind of comes full circle. But it meant a
Wow.
lot to me because I was telling my colleague who is white, um, there are things sometimes I think that we're told, especially as Black kids, to be aware of without having context sometimes.
Mm.
Like I knew that that flag was not a good thing even as a kid, but I also didn't know why. But I was telling her, I said, I remember being in high school and I went to high school in the South where kids would wear a t-shirt with a Confederate flag that said, pick my cotton. And they were allowed to wear that at school. And so just, as an adult now, you realize the ramifications behind something like that being out in the open amongst all students in a place where they're supposed to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But as a kid, you don't always have that context. And I think also you're kind of put in positions where you have to accept things that are not appropriate for you to be accepting. Like I should not have been in an environment where I'm seeing white kids wear a t-shirt with a Confederate flag that says pick my cotton, and
No.
I'm supposed to go to school and function and be
Yeah.
um and be just, I don't know, be a kid.
Yeah.
Like it. So yeah, that was a huge one for me.
This
But
is,
the
like,
artwork,
That's great.
it's
it's
so good. Yeah.
beautiful.
That's good.
And like the fact that this book in 32 pages, like I don't know how many words are in the average picture book, but that it does this so well and it talks about these issues so well. It's like people acting like, oh, kids won't understand. It's like, yes, they do. If
They
you
understand.
teach kids, they understand. Like,
They
Yeah.
do. They can understand a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Very
a
much.
beautiful, beautiful. Oh my goodness gracious. And as soon as I was like, oh, he's on this as the artist. I'm like, this artwork is gonna be
Mm-hmm.
the first time I've seen his work was Born on Water, the 1619 Project picture book. And
Mm.
it was that artwork was just I read a lot of like very hard things this week.
Yeah.
Just in the midst of me reading Roots, I also read that. And so I was very angry this week as well. So there was a lot of
It's
there was a lot of
understandable.
that as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Circle of Magic.
Oh yeah, no, that's why I said like Circle of
Good,
Magic
yeah.
was definitely a very um it was very light. It was stepping away from a lot of what I had been reading.
Yeah.
Listen, in the state
Yeah.
of South Carolina, it wasn't just till recently when they pulled the flag off the state house. And so
That's,
and
yeah.
being very proud of how long it took to get it removed from the state house is disturbing.
Yeah.
It's very disturbing.
I'm not surprised. America can't surprise me.
Mm.
No, it's just at this point, it's just like, how low can we go? Because bar is set in hell at this point. So-
Really, it's to the core, the mantle. It's to the core of the earth at this point. It is with the devil and his toenails.
It's pretty. It's pretty.
It's the devil. Well,
Oh, man.
point. Everything dumb.
But great recommendation. Great recommendation. Great recommendation.
Oh, great, Jessica.
Oh,
I'm
geez.
sorry.
I
That's rough. Yeah. It's
I-
wild that like yeah.
it is. It's still a thing. Like people like their trucks, their houses. Like people are still and even more so now. I think with the culture war that is going on,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
become more of a thing. Not saying that it hasn't been, but it felt like it just kind of disappeared a little bit. And now it's just
Oof, stuff. Rebels with a
Yeah.
Confederate
Yeah.
flag until 1970. 3 and thought it had taken too long to change. I mean, that's a long time to change it, even in there. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, let me see
so,
when, because I don't feel like it was until the 2000s.
Yeah, sounds right. Like, of course, with this group, we went off the rails and talked. Kept going. Talking about other. Oh, good. 2 Trump 2024 flag. Yeah.
Yeah. It like Venn diagram is a circle. Like
There's, I mean, because I live where a lot of people have these big ass like Tundra trucks.
What?
And there are people who are younger than me with literally decals on every side of their car. So many of them every day. I just be like, or just Trump. Just Trump all over their cars.
Yeah.
And they're big cars. And there's some people who have Confederate flags. Like they installed it in the back of their pickup trucks.
Mm.
So you see them all the time.
It's disturbing.
And I'm just like, wow, you guys really got time.
Yeah.
It took them till 2015.
Wow.
So we're not even talking 10 years ago.
That's
They
God,
have,
man.
let me tell you, South Carolinians will hold on to stuff for as long as they can, baby. They are proud that they were the first to secede from they are proud of that. There are still counties that people know not to go into when the sundown towns are still very much so. In 2023, sundown towns are still a very real thing.
You know, I just don't get how they proud of that and not proud of their receding hairlines. They gotta choose.
But child, we can't even make it into the top 50 of education. But we proud of flying that flag though. But we got second and third graders that can't read worth a lick.
Hairline right here.
But that's what we proud of. The state's so backwards.
Here we are.
Comment that there are right-wing Canadians flying it. I'm like, how? What? I feel like then you're just trying to be. I don't know.
That's wild that Canadians are flying the Confederate flag. What? How do you justify that?
Right? Like you can't even fake that it's about history at that
You
point.
can't even say Southern pride.
Yeah.
Southern what?
That's dang. Well,
on that note,
on that very light note,
oh my gosh. Well, in other words, this was a great read. Thank you for lightening up my week. I appreciate it.
I'm glad
I loved it so much.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it was such a hit, and it'll be fun. We'll be back next month with Triss's book, and there's a Confederate community in Brazil. Why?
I'm done. I'm done. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
These people just got time.
Yeah, but Triss's book should be fun, and we're thinking maybe we'll just run right into the next quartet.
Yeah.
If people are up for that, it'd be fun, I think.
I'd be fun for that. No, I'm just kidding. I did in 4K. I'm ready.
Awesome. They're fun. It's like they're older, they're doing their own thing, and yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. I hope you enjoyed the live, and we will be back next month at the end of the month with a live show. Have a great night.